Well, Abdullah, thank you so much for joining us today. You've had a very eventful travel career so far. So tell me, what's really important to today's traveller? You're a young traveller, you meet other young travellers. What's crucial? What's so important these days?
Well, thank you, Gemma, for the lovely introduction. I'm honored to be here among you today. Yes, I think it's very important to see what kind of shifts and trends are taking place these days in the realms of traveling. And I think the pandemic have accelerated a lot of that and helped us shaping the ideas that we are looking at regarding tourism either currently or in the future. I think a major shift evolve around the word experience. I think nowadays and more people live in lives that they like, lifestyles that they tailor to themselves, work in jobs that they believe that they love and they could add value to it, comparing to the generations before us. And I think that would reflect on their choice of travel. People would list travel only for reactionary reasons and just to escape and relax. I think people in the future, and currently today, obviously, indeed, would travel to experience. I see it in myself, like for someone whose job is to travel, I mean, it takes more than a beautiful destination or to attract me to visit, rather than if I feel that place would offer an experience that I cannot find somewhere else. I think this is very, very important.
And we've been talking a lot about people today and people working in the industry. How important is that element in terms of meaningful travel experiences? Is it all about becoming part of the destination, meeting the people there? Do you think that's a top priority now?
I think a lot of these topics and words are becoming more like a cliche, but they're actually very real and make a great impact. And I think there is a lot of values that the current traveler, indeed the future as well, they would value much more than now regarding sustainability, responsible traveling, either be it for the local communities, the local people around, and also regarding the nature and animals as well. And I think it's very important for someone to travel to immerse themselves in the culture they're visiting. I mean, the world is beautiful, but I think when I think of my own experiences, the only thing I would think of is when I had a real connection, interaction with people of the country I was visiting. And tourists indeed could help in a lot of ways. If a lot of people would maybe narrow it towards volunteerism, which I did, and a lot of people do, definitely an experience worth doing. But I could think of an example where actually tourists are actually directly involving to save local communities. A lake, for example, Lake Titicaca, which is a lake between Peru and Bolivia, and in the Andes, very beautiful lake. It's like 4,000 meters above the sea level. And there live the Oro people, which are indigenous people in the Americas, and they be living there in the floating islands that they made themselves out of seed. And as a defensive mechanism in the old days, to escape the invasion of enemies, they would run on the islands and just float them towards the other side of the lake. And obviously, because of the life we live now, a lot of people immigrated out of these lakes to the towns and cities around. And the only reason for these people to sustain their islands and live there to today, which is nowadays, I think, 60-something islands, is tourists. It's for tourists to go and pay and go and see them living there. For each island, there is like 6-8 families who live there, and there is even primary school, there is a church. And I think it's very important to look at these kind of examples for tourists who are actually impacting directly local communities and benefit their existence.
And what's inspired you on your travels recently? Has there been any standout moments where you've seen something new or different that you believe we could all learn from in the industry?
That's actually a good question, because when I started traveling, like a lot of people would go just to see the major landmarks and just to tick it after the box, which is definitely not a wrong thing to do. But I think what I noticed recently, this is not really meaningful traveling. It's not something that will satisfy me entirely. And I think recently I've been doing a lot of longer stays, I would say, in a certain place to discover it more, to discover myself more, to reflect on the place, to find the connection with people in the place I'm visiting. And instead of just traveling to see major landmarks, I did, for example, a long 11-day TikTok trip in India. I would visit a lot of my friends around the world, go to their weddings, just to live their own routine in different places. I think for me that was a very joyful experience.
And as you say, you tend to stay with friends, but when you stay in hotels, because we're here talking about hotel environment and hospitality concepts, is there anything that you've seen, within hotel stays that has been different, that you've kind of been either inspired by, or perhaps the opposite, where you feel there's been a gap where a hotel could have maybe been more involved in the community or done something different or new? Is there any examples you can give on that front?
Yeah, I believe yourself and a lot of people here in the room have stayed in a lot of luxurious hotels, 5-star hotels around the world. Amazing, comfortable, splendid. But there is always a limit to reach, right? Like nobody could give you an extra luxury that you've been offered right now. And I think our hotels, what they could do is just provide their guests with experiences that they cannot find somewhere else. And I think sometimes of experiences I had, for example, when I was staying in hotels rather than in hostels rather than hotels. I remember certain places, a hammock in the Amazons, or like a small cottage in Vietnam, where I had really, really joyful times that it's rarely I would feel it now. When I think about it, it's not about the place, but rather the experience I was living. It's just to go there and trying to connect with the local family, learn a new language or new phrases of a language, taking cooking classes, whatever. I think these kind of experiences the hotels could definitely do. And here in Saudi Arabia, a lot of new hotels are trying to, immerse local culture, local brands into their offerings.
And we talked before the session about the opportunities here in Saudi Arabia. How much have you travelled the country, and what are you seeing, and what would you like to see here to develop the industry further?
I mean, one of the good things about COVID, it actually made me travel all the regions of Saudi Arabia. I had traveled a lot before, but I could say now that I've been to all regions of Saudi. And I loved it, for example, when I went to Al-Jumah, we stayed in this very authentic, nice, beautiful hotel that doesn't even exist online for some reason. But they would give you a beautiful experience with the sado, which is the local Bedouin art the ladies would do. And we took it there, and we asked them, you would pick the colors and fabric, and they would do it for you. And this was a very beautiful experience. And I've seen it also in the new resorts that are coming up in Al-Ula, for example. A lot of, for example, I stayed in this Habitat resort.
Oh, yes.
Very lovely, beautiful place. And when you enter, maybe some of you have been there already, when you enter, you will notice a Bedouin tent is still there. And I was asked people who work there, and they told me, they're actually a Bedouin family. They live here seasonally. And you could imagine, see the contrast between like ultra-luxurious tents and also this authentic Bedouin tent that actually people still use. And I think this is definitely something we could offer. A lot of people say that Saudi Arabia is an undiscovered place, which is very true. I was in Neom a few months ago, and we met this gentleman who's an archaeologist. And he's literally just walking by, and he stumbled into a 3,000-year-old coin. And a friend of mine recently was in Hail, and he discovered like Asian artifacts, which is amazing things that the country is offering. But also us, Saudis, are not discovered yet. So we have very rich culture, very diverse indeed. I personally was surprised when I visited certain parts of Saudi Arabia that is very different from where I am, which is here, Najd. And I think this is a crucial element that tourism industry could use here in Saudi Arabia to offer to the world.
And just lastly, because unfortunately we're running out of time already, we were talking this morning about air connectivity. I was really delighted to hear about one aspect would be to attract backpackers here. And I think you mentioned this about, it's not always about the luxury properties, it's about the experience and perhaps other types of places to stay. I guess for final message, what could Saudi Arabia do to really push the boundaries and wow a global audience, and whether that be people, experiences, new types of accommodation? How would you encapsulate that?
Very good point, Gemma. Like I see it to myself as well. Like I totally understand the economic behind building ultra-luxurious resorts and hotels and such, but also attracting backpackers, young people who are the travelers of the future, definitely would make a lasting impact. These people like to discover, like to share their experiences, and their people come with open-minded, with appreciation of the culture that they're visiting. I think Saudi Arabia should do more of attracting these people, make connectivity between cities better, offering like hostels, boutique hotels, or even encouraging people to open their houses to host foreign guests.
I would love that personally. Yes. Where are you traveling to next?
Next I'm going to southern Florida.
Fantastic.
visiting some
Well,
friends there.
I would love to chat to you all morning, but we're going to have to stop it there. Abdullah, thank you very much. I think you are the luckiest man in the Middle East. So.
Thank you very much, Gemma.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Appreciate it.
please
Thank
give
you very
Abdullah
much.
a round of applause. Thank you.